upon a time, there lived a king and queen who longed for a child. And all the fairies in the kingdom were invited to be godmothers to the baby princess. A feast was held in their honor. The king gave a golden plate, knife and fork to each one of the 7 fairies. As they were about to begin, an ancient fairy appeared, uninvited. The king ordered a place to be laid for her, but she had to be given a silver plate, for there were only 7 gold ones. The old creature was offended and began to mutter to herself. She was overheard by the youngest fairy, who feared she might harm the little princess. When the guests left the table, the youngest fairy hid behind the tapestry while the others began to bestow their gifts on the princess. The first fairy gave her the gift of beauty. The next gave her the temper of an angel. The third gave her grace. The fourth said she should dance like a daffodil in the wind. The fifth that she should sing like a nightingale. The sixth fairy wished her happiness. Now came the turn of the bad old fairy. She declared that the princess would prick her hand with a spindle and die of it. In the midst of the sorrow at this terrible gift, the youngest fairy stepped from her hiding place. "Take comfort, your majesties," she cried. "Your daughter shall not die. The princess will indeed prick her hand with a spindle and will go to sleep for 100 years. But at the end of that time, a king's son will awaken her." The king at once published an edict forbidding all persons under pain of death to use or keep a spinning wheel. When the princess was 16 years old, she decided to explore the castle. Going upstairs from room to room, she came to an attic at the top of a tall tower. There sat an old sewing woman who had not heard that spinning was forbidden. The princess had never seen a spinning wheel and asked if she might try. No sooner had she seized the spindle than she pricked her hand and fell down in a swoon. In great alarm, the old dame cried out for help. From every quarter of the castle, people came running as the alarm spread. The king was hastily summoned and gave orders that the princess should be placed in the finest room in the palace. He remembered the fairy prophecy made years ago and commanded that she should be left to sleep in peace until the hour of her awakening. The good fairy, who had saved the life of the princess, now returned. She caused everyone in the castle to fall asleep. Maids of honor, ladies-in-waiting, stewards, errand boys, pages, guards, cooks, and kitchen boys all fell asleep at the touch of her wand, to awaken only at the same moment as the princess. Thus they would always be ready to serve her when she needed them. The fairy made sure that the princess should be safe throughout her slumber. Within a quarter of an hour, a thick screen of trees and brambles grew up around the castle, so that neither man nor beast could pass through. At the end of 100 years, a king's son was hunting nearby. Seeing the towers of the castle above the trees, he asked what they were. An old peasant dimly remembered the story of the Sleeping Beauty, who could only be awakened by a king's son. The young prince decided immediately to rescue the princess and spurred his horse forward. Hardly had he taken a step when a path was cleared for him by magic. The prince rode on until he came to the castle. The silence of the courtyard, the still bodies all around would have scared the bravest, but he hurried on into the castle itself. When the prince realized that the people were not dead but sleeping, he went forward eagerly to find his princess. The last hour of the 100 years had arrived, and the spell was broken. While the princess told the prince how long she had been waiting for him, the rest of the palace began to stir. The prince and princess were married and lived happily ever after.